Good evening and thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights. My name is Chimomelungu. This evening we are at Levy Cinemas where the Securities and Exchange Commission has launched the World Investor Week 2024. I am currently joined by Honorable Kapumpa, who is the first ever CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Financial Insights. It's an absolute honor to have you.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine, and thank you for having me on your program.
Thank you. Kindly just run us through, how was your experience being the first CEO of the Securities and Exchange Commission when you were in that position?
Right. Well, the dream goes back to the 90s when in 1992 the then Minister of Finance, Honorable Gibson Chigaga, asked me. I was then the first Treasury Counsel in the Ministry of Finance. He asked me to research as to whether or not we should have a capital market, a stock exchange in Zambia. And so I went with a group of individuals to do some research in South Africa, in Botswana, and in the UK. We came and we wrote a report to the minister saying that the Zambia was ready, because at that time the government was thinking in terms of privatization. So we knew that there would be a lot of companies which will have to be privatized. What does privatization mean? It meant selling the shares of those companies to the ordinary Zambian. And the only way that could be done properly, efficiently, was through establishing a capital market. And we didn't have one. Okay, a few years earlier, in 1970, the Zambia Stock Exchange Council Act was published to start the stock market. But the stock market could not be established because that was the same time when nationalization was done, when the government got shares from literally all businesses in the country. So the stock exchange could not be established. So 20 years later, 1990, 92, we had to have one. And I, in my capacity as Treasury Counsel, I recommended that we have the Zambia Stock Exchange Act of 1970 changed to 1990. That's what happened. And with that, we established the Zambia Stock Exchange Council, which is the forerunner to the Securities and Exchange Commission. And I was privileged to be appointed the first Secretary and Chief Executive of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Essentially, my job was two things. We had to convince everybody that the capital market was not a gambling machine, as in fact one minister actually called it that we're gambling. That was not gambling, it was a respectable way of actually earning money through investment. That's one. Secondly, was to provide investor protection. In other words, whereas gambling you could put in money and there's no protection at all, and you could lose everything. Capital market development is different. If you invest something in the capital market, you buy shares, you should be given the opportunity to have your investment protected. And this is what SEC has been doing up to today.
Absolutely amazing. I am glad that you have actually brought out all the information that you brought out. I'm sure a lot of people out there now have a clear understanding of where SEC is coming from to where it is today.
Yeah.
So looking back, Ambassador, from all these years that we have come, you have come from as SEC, we are launching today. Actually, SEC is launching the World Investor Week 2024.
Yes.
Why do you feel it is important for the Securities and Exchange Commission to actually really launch the World Investor Week in your experience?
Yeah. What SEC is doing, first of all, SEC is not a little island in the middle of nowhere. SEC belongs to IOSCO. IOSCO is the International Organization for Securities Authorities. In other words, all the Securities and Exchange Commissions around the world and capital market authorities in some jurisdictions like Tanzania and Uganda and so on, get together. And they are the ones, that organization, which said we must begin to educate the locals on how to invest in a way that protects their investment. So Zambia and IOSCO set up this particular program, I think about 7 or 8 years ago. And so Zambia now is doing it through SEC in this country to be part and parcel of the international community that is protecting investment wherever it occurs by the locals in a particular capital market vehicles. So in Zambia, for instance, there are several institutions, there are several organizations, there are several companies whose shares are being traded on the exchange. So what is being done now is to ensure that knowledge of how those function and operate is being spread to everybody in the country. And at the same time, that thing I talked about, investor protection, you cannot expect to go onto the market unprotected. So SEC, the SEC, has a duty to ensure that investor protection is being done, while at the same time they are developing the capital market, which are the two most important things that they have been doing. Develop the capital market and provide investor protection.
Absolutely amazing. Any message you have, Ambassador, to the Zambian people out there who are going to be watching this interview, just encourage them also on the importance of the World Investor Week, and also what are some of the things that they can really look forward to rather in this coming week as a SEC.
Well, my hope, as one who was there when SEC started, my hope is that there should be more information being given to the ordinary Zambian, information which they can be able to discern and utilize and make use of to do investment. Because I noticed that you have a big competition in gambling. I see huge advertisements on television, on radio about gambling, and a lot of Zambians are going in that direction. Gambling, I would not support it myself, but at the same time, for us who are supporting genuine investment, must be able to know that the more information we give to the general public, the more information we give to the ordinary Zambian, they will begin to know that investment in the capital market is the way to go, as opposed to gambling. Gambling may give you huge returns in one go, but it could also cause havoc in your home, because the money which you're supposed to buy malasha or milimil has gone into gambling. Whereas investment into capital market means that you don't just rush in, you sit down, somebody explains